and share my screen. So let's see here. You know what? I'm having some weird problems here. Geez, my screen is not sharing. You know what, guys? I may have to restart my computer. So hold on one second. So I may go away for a couple minutes and then I'll come right back, but I need to restart because for some reason I can't. There's something wrong. My cameras aren't working and I can't share my screen. So give me 1 second here. Okay, I'm gonna have to restart my computer, so I'll be back on in about, let's say 10 minutes. So if you want to take a little break and come back in like 10 minutes, just give me 10 minutes because I need to figure this out so I can actually share the screen. Right. So hold on 1 second here.
Okay. Well, you're good.
Okay, I think it's okay now. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hold on. Can you guys wait like 10 more minutes? I got to restart my computer. All right. Just hold on 1 second. All right. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. I'm glad most of you guys are still here. Okay. I'm going to switch over again. My other work, they installed software on my computer and I think it messed a couple things up, but everything is fine at this point, I think. So I want to go over some stuff in InDesign real quick, and then I want to go over the sketches you guys have worked on for this assignment, the current assignment. And that's pretty much it. Let me, okay. So I had this page set up in InDesign. So I just want to go over a couple things for typography, which are kind of important just to make sure you understand some of the typography tools in InDesign. And one of the things I want to talk about are character styles. So not just character styles, but paragraph styles as well. So for this assignment, I want you to have a header and a subheader, and part of it is probably thinking about typography and the type of font you're using, and maybe the text as well has maybe some information that repeats multiple times. So for example, in this document, I have these headers for the paragraphs. This says, what is typography number 1? And down below, I have this number 2. So these are the titles for the paragraphs themselves. So sometimes, what I want to think about is contrast between the fonts that I'm using. If I'm using a serif font, sometimes they may want to use a sans serif font in combination, especially for like headers. So here, I have 2 of these headers with the numbering 1 and 2. So maybe I would use, let's say, a sans serif font. Like here, I'll pick Myriad. This Myriad bold condensed. And now that kind of sticks out a little bit better, and in terms of like having some sort of hierarchy in the typography. Now, if I have multiple headers like this, though, I probably want to use a character style. So it's pretty easy. You can highlight the text, and there's a character style palette. If you go under Window, under Styles, you have character styles, and you have a couple other ones as well. Character styles and paragraph styles kind of work together. So here under character styles, if I have something selected and I have this bit of text with a font, so the font here is Myriad, and the size is 18 points. Now down below is the leading too. The leading is the amount of space between lines. This number, 21.6 in parentheses, is based on a multiplier of 18. Sometimes I would like to adjust the leading, so you don't necessarily want to always use the defaults. So for this header, let's say, let me make it something different. Let me make it 23. It's just pushing it down a little bit. You can barely see it. And then all the other aspects of this line of text, from the spacing between characters, which is called tracking. So this is your tracking right here. And then there's individual spacing between pairs of letters, and that's your kerning over here. And then you have your baseline offset right here. So if you raise this up, you can actually bring it down. So that's offsetting that line of text. And this is your vertical scale. You can scale things vertically, horizontally, and then you have this skew, and it's called false italic. Some of these things I would never use. And then you have the color of the text as well. So we could change that if we wanted to. So now we have this header, and what we can do is we can create a character style for it. So if I just click on this little plus sign box in my character style windows, now I have that character style right there. So it's character style 1. And then you can double click on this, change the name. So let's say this is now called paragraph header. If you right click on that and go to edit, it brings up this window, and now you can see all these options to do different variations of the style for this particular character. So you have all sorts of different things you can do, including you know, special types of open type features, which I'll talk about. Underlining the character. So different things that you can do with this style. So once you have it set, I can go down here and I can apply paragraph header to this. But there's a special feature in InDesign which is kind of nice, and it's this little lightning bolt. And what that does is basically applies your most recent style. So if I select text and click the lightning bolt, it brings up this window here, and then you just hit enter and it applies that style. The faster way to use it though is to select something and hit Control Enter and then hit enter again. So it does it really quickly. And this way, if you have all sorts of different styles to use, by hitting Control Enter, it's a really quick way to get to those styles. Let me fix this here. So that's a character style, and then you have paragraph styles as well. So paragraph styles deal with things that affect paragraphs on a whole. So let's say I have text here with a certain amount of leading. And then you also have, besides leading and other things that you can do to affect the characters, in your control panel, underneath the A is this little paragraph symbol. If you click on that, it gives you basically all the options for paragraph type styles. The options up in the upper left-hand corner, these are basically your paragraph alignment types. And in graphic design, you have three basic types of alignment. You have something called ragged right, then you have ragged left, and then you have justified. So when you hear the term ragged, here where the text itself does not fit in the column, you know, it has this kind of like ragged structure like this, that's ragged itself. Justified is where it fits perfectly in the column. So if I select this and I click on the icon where each line is basically the same width, this right here, this is justified. There's another, this one right here where every single line is exactly the same. That will justify everything, even the last line down below. So now everything is perfectly justified. What happens though when you start to justify things, you get more gaps in between. And in graphic design, where you have a lot of gaps in between text, those are called rivers, where you kind of see like white gaps. It's not too bad here, but those are called rivers. And then you also have ragged right, which is this. So ragged right is justifying, or wait, this is, yeah, this is ragged right. It's justifying on the left. No, it's justifying on the right. I think this is, you would say this is ragged left actually, and it's justifying on the right. So ragged left, ragged right, and justified, those are for alignment purposes. Those are our different types of alignment for paragraphs. You also have some other things in here as well. You have your indentation, so indenting text. So if I go back to ragged right, you can indent your text in the columns, and you can also adjust the indentation of just the first line by clicking on this too. So if you want to have an indentation, that's where you do it. You can do it both ways. And this basically increases the spacing between paragraphs. So you got spacing before, spacing after, and then this over here, where you have the letter A, this is where you can add a drop cap. So this is adding a drop cap. So all of these items up here are for your paragraph styles. So if I select this paragraph here, and then I go into paragraph styles, it's under Window, Styles, Paragraph Styles, right here, and I click on the little plus sign in the box, I create a paragraph style. So let's say I want drop caps, so I can call this drop cap style. And paragraph styles are actually a combination of the character style as well. So if I right click on this and go to edit, you see in here not only everything that applies to paragraph styles, but you have your basic character format as well. So it's actually using character styles within the paragraph style as well. So you have a combination. And again, if you want to quickly apply it to something, let's say here, if you double click on this, you can go back to just the basic paragraph. But if I want to apply this paragraph style real quick, I can hit Control Enter, find drop cap, and just click on that and then apply it. So that's a cool feature. Another thing you can do is you can actually highlight text with your eyedropper and use that to actually capture the style of text and then apply it to another piece of text somewhere else. So if I click on my eyedropper, actually if I double click on it, all these settings pop up. And so these are all the things that the eyedropper can capture. And it can capture your character styles and your paragraph styles. So let's say I just want to capture the character styles and not the paragraph styles. I can unclick that, hit OK. Click on the text here for what is typography, find a word, and then it applies it to that word. So it's kind of, if you want to get really detailed in this assignment, then you can start to go into paragraphs of text and apply specific styles to individual words. If I apply it to the B, then I have a drop cap using that style. So the eyedropper tool is not just for colors, it's for character styles, it's for different effects, just about anything that you apply, you can use this on. So you also have,
So all you're doing here is just moving between character style and paragraph style.
What is it doing?
So all you're doing here is moving between character style and paragraph style.
Here I'm basically capturing all the attributes of the text, let's say. You know, the text color, the text, the font being used, the font size. Capturing it with the eyedropper tool and applying it to another piece of text somewhere else. So let's say I wanted to have a design where I did have words and I wanted the words to be separate colors. Instead of having to go through and select each word and then changing the font up here and then changing the color and doing all of that. Or here, like here I have that font Bungee that I like to use a lot. So if I wanted to use this font for particular characters, let's say anytime I have the name of a person inside my text, or maybe it's like the name of a city, let's say, and I want all the city names to be a certain color or a certain font, then I can use this eyedropper tool to quickly select that particular font being used, and then apply it. So I can apply it here. So applying it to different words like that. Now another thing you can do, which is pretty cool, let's say I wanted to go through here and I wanted to have the word typography be red, you know, and maybe be a little bit bigger. You know, this is an article about typography, and I want all the text for typography to stand out a little bit. So what I can do is I can go into edit, find and change, and I can find a word here, find the word typography, and let's see, and then go into change format, and then under character styles, pick that. Let's say, let me create a style for it. Well, I don't even have to do that. I can go under character formats, pick a font, pick a color. So now it's going to find typography and then change it to dim, condense, bold, and color. So if you hit change all, the word typography appears 17 times. I hit OK. And now every time I have that word typography, it changed it based on these settings that I created. So it's like a really fast way to stylize things, to bring, you know, to bring attention to certain things in your text really, really quickly. What was the question? Was there a question? Did anybody have a question? So, I mean, I really like this feature a lot. This is a really cool feature. You know, you can start to get really detailed in your text. What's cool about it is that if you think about your audience and information you're trying to convey, you can make your text easier to read by emphasizing certain words, and things just stand out. It's almost like you start to control your audience a little bit better by emphasizing certain things. You know, it almost feels like it's manipulating, you know, manipulating your audience by having text that sticks out in whatever you're creating. So I wanted to show you this because maybe you can apply it to your assignment in different ways. If you so any questions about this? Character styles, paragraph styles, using the eyedropper tool to select character styles, and then applying those styles to other things. And I haven't done this in a long time. I used to do this all the time, you know, for certain projects. So let me kind of pull some stuff out, actually. What I did tonight is actually brought out my portfolio. So let me show you this real quick. Let me stop sharing. Let me go back to, let's see, stop sharing. Okay, so you see me right here, and then I'm gonna go over here, stretch over here, and so this is kind of like the old school way of doing things. So you want to get a job in the arts. Let's say you want to be an illustrator, you want to be a graphic designer. The old way of doing things was carrying one of these giant portfolios around, and you would go into the interview, and you would basically pull this out, and let's see if I can do this without having everything fall. So this was my graphic design portfolio. I think it's kind of upside down. And, you know, I would take this out and kind of on the interview, go through it piece by piece. So here's something right here that just kind of popped out. So here's a brochure that I did, printed brochure. And I guess this would be kind of a good example. Here. So like in this brochure, I think on this side, you know, I have these like questions, frequently asked questions and answers. And here the question is bold and the Q is bold and the A is bold. Can you guys see that? It's backwards, right? Is it backwards? It looks a little backwards, right?
It's right.
Does it look right to you? Does it flip?
Yeah, it's in the right way. It's not backwards. I could read the Q's and the A's.
Oh, okay. So like I would like to do this all the time just to emphasize certain parts of the text, right? Even on the other side, coming up with this design, like these tabs that kind of stick out. So they're kind of like a rounded rectangle type design. So I'd kind of do stuff like that. And I would have to use InDesign. Now this is like a, not a really long format piece of reading material. You know, this is like short format, but I still use the character styles to let me quickly do things on this to make things easier. Now, let me show you another example of something. Let's see. Okay, this might be a good one. So for this one, I was like, I don't know if you can see this too good. Actually, let me, so for this one, this design, I was using this italic face. And if you notice, the name ideology has like an asterisk in it. So it's part of their design. But I used the character styles to make it easy for me to put an asterisk in the middle of there every time you saw that word. And then there are certain words that I wanted to stand out. So like the word abundance is that italic style, and it has that nice ornate style A. So I wanted that to have that particular look. So using character styles for something like this was really helpful. So there's another example. Other things too, it's like getting into detail with the kind of like a pull quote. So those two lines here and the bit of text in the middle, and then the word big is actually a little bit bigger. Like getting into that level of detail just to make it a little bit more interesting. So that's kind of the things I would play with. And a lot of times I would use character styles to help me do that, look. So that's one thing. Then let me just show you. Maybe I'll show you. Maybe this one right here. So this is a more simple type project, but here, like this was a gallery event. That's like, this is a water tower on top of a building that I silhouetted, did the photograph, did the vector shape in Illustrator. But then you look at the times and the dates, just the way I stylized that. I don't know if you can see it good, but just like having a certain style. So each day and each time range, like stuck out a particular way. So that's another way I used InDesign in that for this project. So those are just examples from my own portfolio. Now these days you would probably not have to bring in a portfolio. You'd probably point somebody to a website. That's the way you would do it now. So, or you'd have your work on Behance. So have all of your work on Behance, and that's how you would show off your work during an interview. Don't necessarily have to carry in a portfolio for the interview. But if you do have printed pieces, or even if you do have artwork that's all digital, I still recommend maybe printing it out and leaving it behind, so you leave it with the person who interviewed you, so it's always with them. So even if you give them a link to a digital portfolio, give them a physical copy of your work as well. So that's kind of just my general advice to help you if you do start to look for jobs, and after the quarantine, do that as well. So that's like a side note, but I would also, just one more thing in that regard, not only would I bring in the physical portfolio and give them a link to the digital portfolio, I would also mail them some portfolio pieces as well. So if I really wanted that job, like if I was really serious about it and I wanted to land that job, I would do all three. I would do all three things. And that way it would cement in their minds that I was the candidate that was most serious about that position. So just some job advice for you. But it kind of goes back though, if you thinking about the detail that you put into the project, even on like a character by character basis, word by word basis, that type of dedication is going to show people that you're very serious about what you're doing. So using character styles is kind of an important thing to think about. So any questions about that? Do you guys understand what I was talking about with the character styles?
Yeah.
Yes? Or Alexis, you said yes. I haven't used this in a long time, like InDesign like this in a long time, because I do more like animation stuff. But like when I was doing it, like I was very like intensely focused on like fonts and typography and how everything worked together and using colors for certain things. So another thing too is when you work on this project, think about the combination of things that you're doing. So I'm going to go back here, and I think what I had here is the words inventive and typography. And really think about how fonts work together and establish relationships between the fonts that you're using, and try to use more than, at least two, but really no more than three. Like if it's just one font the whole time, it can be okay, but you want to use different fonts and contrasting fonts to bring interest to the text and to emphasize the project that you're working on. And when I say contrast, usually it's a good idea to contrast serif font with a sans serif font. So for example, maybe the word inventive is going to be this sans serif font called Interstate. And then the word typography would be a serif font. Maybe I would use something like and when I'm doing this too, I'm trying to look for fonts that have a similar weight to it. So maybe even like a script font, like, let's see. Here, brush script, which is not my favorite script font, but you know, combining these two, fonts, inventive typography, starts to create a little bit more visual interest on the page when you have two things that contrast. And then going into the text itself, I'm going to go back in here. If you click on basic paragraph, it will default to the default paragraph settings. And for the character styles, if I click on none, it defaults back to same size, but not the same font. So I still have the word typography and definition a different color. And I'm just going to go up here and
So these fonts, we can find them like all, I don't see them on mine. Are they like there?
if you go into type up here and go into font, you should have default fonts that were installed when you installed InDesign. But if you don't find a font and you want a particular font, what you can do in InDesign, you can go into the character palette here. So you go into type, character, and characters up here. And if you click on Find More, it should open up the Creative Cloud for you and go into Typekit. You can also go in, you should be able to go into type here and well, if there's not a font listed here, just go into Adobe Typekit. So let's see. And then start selecting fonts that you want to use.
Adobe Type what?
It's Adobe Typekit, so I'll show you right here. So here on this web page, you can actually go into fonts or browse, fonts.adobe.com. You sign in with your Creative Cloud account, and then you can search fonts. When I said Typekit, those are basically for web design purposes. But here I can search for a font. So let's say I want, well, let's say I don't even know what I want. So you click on Browse, and then you can search for different font types. So serif, sans serif. And down here, you can search for different properties. So you want maybe fonts of all the same weight, fonts that are bolder, but maybe you want to search for serif and sans serif fonts. So you click all. So you get fonts of similar weight or similar X height or similar contrast as well. So you're looking for fonts that go together, and let's say you find something that you like this hummingbird. Okay, let's view it. If you like it, okay, that's great, you like it. You can add to your favorites, and then you can activate it. And then once you activate it here, you just wait a little bit, and then it will show up in your font list for InDesign. So it says down here 2 fonts were activated, and it was Hummingbird. That's the name of it, Hummingbird. So I'm going to go up here and find Hummingbird. Sometimes it takes a while for it to activate too. I don't see it yet. Okay, so let's see if it kicked in. So Hummingbird right here. So maybe instead of just brush script for typography, I will use Hummingbird.
So this is how you've been adding to it. That's why you have probably more stuff than what we have.
Yeah, so I may have some default fonts that were installed in my system or when I bought the computer, plus other projects that I've worked on. So this is important. When you're working on a project, maybe you want to send this project to somebody else. Maybe there's images in it as well. I don't have any images here. Let me put an image in here real quick. So I'm going to add an image of my hand holding the mouse. So I'm going to add an image. So you can add an image by going into edit, place, and link. Or you can hit Control D and you can go to place and oh, I had something selected on top. Okay, so I'm just going to drag that out. There's my hand. So I have this document called Invented Typography. Let's say it's a newsletter that I like to do on typography. So one thing to remember when you create something and it's for printing, you need to include all the fonts and the images if you're going to send this to a printer to print on a printing press. And that's why I have all these extra fonts, Randa. So if you're looking here and you see all these fonts, so some of these could have came from projects where I was working for a client and they wanted to have a particular font, and I, bought that font, or they bought that font, or they went to Adobe Fonts and we used the font from Adobe Fonts, or possibly somebody handed off a project to me and it already had the font included with it, and so I had to install it if I wanted to see that font in that project. And when you hand something off to somebody, and let's say I give this to you, so it's like, hey, I'm working on this newsletter and I want you to work on it now. Like, now it's your turn. We work at the same company together. Can you add some images and add another article? You're like, yeah, that's great. Well, what I would have to do though is give you the article with the font and the images. If you don't include the font and the images, then you will get an error when you open up the document saying font is not here, substitute the font. So it's important that you know that when you're handing off an InDesign project, even an Illustrator project, same way. If you're using a particular font in Illustrator and you give this to somebody else and that font's not there, then the font's not going to show up and you'll get some sort of error message in the beginning saying font's missing, would you like to substitute it with a font that you have? So when you hand things off, go to File and you package it. So this is important to know, because let's say you even decide to give me this assignment. You hand in your assignment and you just give me the InDesign file, and that InDesign file is a .indd format. So I look, I see .indd. It's like, oh, okay, this is the InDesign file. But if you don't give me the fonts or the images, I'll have broken links on the page for the images, and then I'll have missing fonts. So it may show up in a default font on my computer. So packaging is important. You click on package and this comes up. So it gives you a summary of everything that's inside this document. So you have 4 fonts being used. Can you guys see this okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is important to know. You have 4 fonts being used. 0 are missing, which is good. 0 are embedded. So you can embed fonts in the document as well, and then you don't have to link them. The document will be a larger size document. Down here, links and images. 1 link found, 0 modified, 0 missing. But this is important now. So you see this little exclamation point in the yellow triangle. What that means is there's something wrong with the document. I have an error in the document. And it's saying 1 uses RGB color space. So this is what it's finding. It's saying, wait a second, before you give this to somebody, do you realize you're using RGB? So when we talk about color, why is RGB like a challenging thing for a print document?
Because RGB is related to white light and CMAC is related to black.
Yeah, what was it, Charles? Can you repeat it?
RGB is the color scale based off of white light, and CMAC is the color scale based on black, which is the printers.
Yeah, so what you're trying to say is RGB is what you would say is additive color. So it's light being projected. So in the world of content and graphics and information, where are you going to find RGB color?
Usually on a device that emits light.
Right. Your computer screen right now, as you're watching this, it's emitting light. So screens, basically things that emit light. The types of projects then would be like web pages, videos, animations. All those projects use the RGB color space, which is great for them because it's projecting the light out and it's very vibrant. You get all of these colors. For print, you're using subtractive color. So that means you're adding pigments together to get black. In a sense, you're taking away the color until you just get black because the pigments are reflecting the light back. And then basically that reflected light is basically what you're seeing. It's bouncing off that surface, reflecting back. But when it reflects back, it's basically combining those colors together. So CMYK is really the proper color space for print. Cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So that's telling you, hey, maybe you should, before you do this, go to this image, right-click on it, go to Edit with Photoshop, and let Photoshop open. So if you bring an image in, you can always right-click on it and edit with Photoshop, which is sometimes you might have to do that.
Can I ask you something here?
Yeah.
You know when you say like right click or left click because you're using the mouse, on my computer, the Mac, I don't know how to do the right or left click.
I think what you do is you just, if you want to do right click, like if, basically I do like 2 fingers down and it sees it as a right click on your trackpad. Like, hold on one sec. So just to answer your question real quick.
So I can't use like control something or.
Yeah, let me, so here, I'm going to stop sharing. So you see I have I just happen to have a Macintosh computer right here
Yeah.
because I knew you'd ask me this question, right? So I always keep this next to me.
Yeah.
So you got your trackpad.
Hmm.
If I click on something, I do like a 2-finger click. See, I got 2 fingers.
On the right side.
It doesn't even matter. I can go anywhere on the trackpad,
Uh-huh.
and it knows that I have 2 fingers pressed down.
Yeah.
So you see how I do that? So that's the equivalent of doing the right click. If I do 1 finger press down, it doesn't do that, right?
Uh-huh.
So depending on how many fingers you're using,
Uh-huh.
it can register like the number of fingers. So if I like do certain swipes with like 1 finger, see how it doesn't swipe or move the screen?
Yeah.
But if I use 3 fingers, then it understands that I'm like swiping across like that.
So which one is right click? Which one is left click?
2 fingers is a right click.
Okay.
1 finger is like a left click.
Okay.
You guys see that?
I'll try it.
You guys like how I'm holding this computer? Showcasing. It's like the home shopping network. Do I have any bidders on this beautiful item? So, yeah. So anyways.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Back to what I was saying though, if you right click on an image, you can open it up in Photoshop. It's right here. That's my hand on the mouse. And then just make sure it's in the right color format. If you're seeing little errors, if you package something, go to image, go to mode, and change it to CMYK.
We can't see it because you need to flip it
Oh,
back.
sorry. That's embarrassing. Hold on. In Photoshop, okay. So if you go to package something, it gives you that error. And packaging is a good way to actually see those errors pop up in the document because there could be things that you need to fix. So look for those little triangles with the exclamation point. Try to figure out what the issue is. There it said RGB, so I can just go into image mode in Photoshop and pick CMYK. Hit OK. Color changes a little bit because I went from RGB, which has a lot more colors than CMYK. The light being projected from the screen from the sun that has like all the colors, right? The light from the sun is all the colors you can imagine. It's the full spectrum. Whereas printing inks are limited. That's why you see the color kind of dull down sometimes when you go from RGB to CMYK. So I just did that though, not CMYK. Hit save. Now the other thing is JPEG is really for web purposes. So when you do save images and you want those images to be in a printed project, you want to save it as a TIFF, or you can actually save it as the default Photoshop PSD format. So if I want this for a print project, I would probably want to save it as a TIFF or a default PSD. Or there's an EPS file as well if it's vector information. So here I would change that to a TIFF. Now you can actually use JPEGs in InDesign too, because you can use InDesign to create web-based projects as well. So I'm not going to change it for now. I'm just going to keep it. But I am going to save over it. So I'm going to hit yes, save over this, hit OK. I'll pick highest quality, maximum, and then I'll update. Now when I go to package, see how that little yellow triangle went away with the exclamation point? 0 uses the RGB color space. So now if I click on links and images, well, let's go through this first. So summary is telling me all the details. You can click on create printing instructions, and that will actually create, well, yeah, you can click on that. It'll let you type in some instructions after you package it. And then click on fonts. Now this is listing all of your fonts. And it's going to take all these fonts and save them in a separate folder. It's going to take all of your links and images and save them in a separate folder. This is helpful if you have what's called spot colors. So there's Pantone colors that are very specific, and it's a different system than just CMYK. So I have 4 process. CMYK is considered process colors. They're mixing together to form other colors. And spot colors are specially prepared inks that already have a set color. So Pantone makes a series of colors. You know, it's thousands of colors, but you can be very specific. The reason why you want to use Pantone is it will assure the designer. The designer can be assured that the colors are going to print the same all the time. CMYK, those colors are mixing together to form other colors, so it's not as exact. Then you go into print settings. This is stuff set for a printer, like a desktop printer. Don't have to worry about that. Plugins, you can have extra plugins in here. Okay, so I'm gonna hit package. Save it first. So here's, remember how I told you earlier about printing instructions? This is where you can add information for the document. So if you hand this document off to somebody else, you know, I can put my name in here, put my phone number, put some instructions, call me for more images, you know, whatever. Continue. And then I'm just gonna save this to my desktop. Hit package. Now, this is telling you this warning. So you got that exclamation point with the yellow triangle. But what this is telling you now is better obey copyright laws or you'll get in trouble. So fonts are copyrighted. And you got to think about images that you're using as well. When you use a font, if you're the person who bought that font, then that's one license and only your license to use the font. So there's something to think about with fonts that you find or people give to you or that you have from other jobs that you just happen to have inside your font folder on the computer. To really use the font, you should be licensed to do it. So this is kind of like a little warning saying, hey, you know, like if somebody gave me the font Hummingbird, I didn't get it from Adobe fonts or I didn't pay for it, you know, then it's saying, hey, that you didn't pay for that, so technically you shouldn't use it. But anyways, I'll hit OK. So if I go to my desktop, that's where it created that folder.
So you pay for fonts?
Yes. Fonts are surprisingly very expensive.
You can just download them off the internet?
You can go to Font Squirrel. So there's places like Font Squirrel that provide free fonts. Or you go to a place like Adobe Fonts, and if you have the Creative Cloud, these are fonts that kind of came with the Creative Cloud. But there is this site called Font Squirrel. You know, these are all free fonts that you can download and use.
I know Font Serena is also pretty good.
What's another one?
Font Serena?
Oh, okay.
Font Arena, yeah.
Font Arena?
Yeah, that one's also pretty neat.
Oh, okay. Oh, nice. I never heard of it. Thanks. Yeah.
You pay for that?
No.
Oh, no, those are all free.
These are free.
Okay.
Let's see. There's a site called You Work for Them. I think I might have showed you this. Here's some fonts here, but you have to pay for most of these. So let's say you wanted to use.
What is that You Work for Them website for?
It is basically different types of plugins, images, templates, anything that you can use that can help you in projects, basically. So you got like these stock templates, you know, other types of templates, and then you got your fonts. So it's a good way to find like interesting fonts out there, but you have to pay for these. So like TTT norms standard condensed. Oh, that's not too bad. It's $5.80. Now let's say you wanted Helvetica. So Helvetica is not a part of Adobe's font system.
Oh,
I'm sorry?
they have like a close alternative if it helps. I think it was called Newhouse Grotesque.
Yeah, you have to find an alternative to it.
It's really close though.
But if let's say I have a client and I have to use Helvetica for that project, here the font is only $35, but that's just for one font family. So that's just for Helvetica Roman. If I wanted to own the whole font, click on packages, and the complete font family, all the variation is $400. So if you want this font and all the variation, $400. That's kind of standard. So fonts are pretty expensive. Okay, so for the packaging of stuff, this is what you get. You get a PDF, which is great. It shows you the project. You get the InDesign files. You get your instructions. These are the instructions I created. Call me for more images. Then all of your images appear in the links folder. And then your fonts appear in the fonts folder. I got a font folder, and these are the fonts I'm using for this project. So that's packaging something. So it's good to remember that. You may want to hand stuff off to other people, or you're working on a job and has to go to a printer. You just got to make sure you package all that content.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
Is that only for InDesign?
Actually, it's also for Illustrator.
Okay.
So Illustrator has a package function as well. It's kind of the same thing in Illustrator. If you don't outline the fonts, you hand this off to somebody else, and let's say you're using, Helvetica in Illustrator, but you didn't give them the Helvetica font, then that font is going to default. It's going to default to something else, and it's not going to look good. So yeah, it works with Illustrator as well.
Okay, and it's the same process?
Yes, there's actually, you go to File, and you go to Package in Illustrator.
Okay, thank you.
Same process. This is the thing that's really important to know when you're working at like an ad agency and you're starting the handoff project, and you end up getting a project that you have to work on and the fonts are missing. And it just adds like 2 to 3 hours to your day, that you didn't really have to begin with, because now you have to search for the font, or then you have to go to, a font foundry and buy the font and, upload it, into font book on a Mac, or the fonts directory on Windows. So yeah, it's good to always hand off the project with the fonts. It's just like good etiquette, The same way with the images. When you have images in a project, make sure you send them the images that were added to that project. So any more questions about, these are like workflow ideas, basically, you know, packaging things, using the right images, including your fonts, stuff like that. So any other questions? Do you have any other questions about InDesign at all? So it's a great program for page layout. How many of you are going into graphic design fields? Can I get like a yes in the little thing here? So Emmy, Charles, not Alexis, Vivian. Yeah, so this information that I'm giving you about packaging, it's like really important. And, you know, thinking about character styles and paragraph styles, using style sheets is really important as well. And the other thing is when you hand off a project and you are using style sheets, you want to hand off the style sheets too, just to make it easier. So you can right click here and you can actually right click on that style and should be a way for you to, oh, well, let me go back here. So what you can do actually, if I have a style here, I'm pretty sure there's a way for you to save these out. For some reason I'm not seeing it. But what you can do is you can add this to your Creative Cloud library. So if I open up my Creative Cloud library here, click on this little button, and now this character style called paragraph header is now in my library. And then if I go into a different InDesign document, then I can utilize that. So you can save these styles and then use them on different projects. Yeah. So from a graphic design standpoint, it's good to know, you know, start to get more familiar with these features. So what I want to do now is look at your projects real quick. So Vivian, you wanted me to look at yours?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if I was going in the right direction with that.
Yeah. Let's let me bring it up real quick. You know, the idea behind this is it's just a magazine cover. So I was using a mechanic, a female mechanic. But you know, it's like it could be, if it's about, in your case, you have mountains, right? You know, it could be a field of flowers, or, you know, as long as it's a background image. I just want you to be able to bring in images into InDesign. So let's see, Vivian, let's look at yours real quick then. Let's see. Yeah, but I mean, you're going in the right direction. I thought it was pretty cool, actually, what you did. What is alchemize? Is this
Alchemize kind of just like kind of like change, like something different.
Okay. So is this like a story idea of some sort? maybe it's for a cover for a book.
Yeah, well, I was thinking of like what kind of magazine would I like?
Okay.
And I just thought of that. I feel like maybe we're just all used to like our normal everyday things. So I just
Okay.
thought of something that's why it's like Alchemize the Journey to the Unknown. Kind of just like just go towards like something different, something higher.
Yeah. So what I like about what you did is you're already thinking about contrast in the fonts, right?
Yeah.
Like this would be sans serif, and then this would be a script font. Kind of like what I just did with that innovative typography header type combination. Yeah, it's cool. And then you just, find some mountains. And are these like two different styles that you're playing with?
Yeah,
One has-
the bottom one, I was gonna do another sketch, but I didn't get to that because I just wanted to make sure I was going the right direction with the top one.
Yeah.
So yeah, the bottom one's gonna be something else, but the top one is just kind of what I had an idea of at first.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Then bring some mountain images, and then your text can stand out up against the white sky of that mountain. And then figure out what else you can add to it.
Right. So I would also have to throw in something like you said, call of action, something on there, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
but make it fit within the theme,
Yeah.
and then, but I think the whole idea of combining these typefaces and then having it in the mountain background is a great idea. And then what is this for this arrow that kind of swoops around?
I just took that idea from like maps. You know, how sometimes on maps you see those little dots.
Okay.
It's just an idea. I don't know if that was good or not, but
I don't think it needs it really. You can explore it, but it might just add too much.
okay.
I thought
Just think
for
about
this project
font.
we're bringing like a picture from somewhere, right?
Wait, what was the question, Randa?
I thought for this project we were bringing a background picture from somewhere.
Yeah, Vivian's gonna bring in some mountains.
Oh.
So she'll find photos of mountains, right, Vivian?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, she sketched out the mountains just to see, how the type would look with the mountains, which is probably going to work good if you pick mountains that have like a light blue background sky, and then you'll have a space to put that type there.
Yeah, I was thinking of like mountains with like different colors. Nothing too crazy, but just a different color on each mountain.
Yeah, I mean, bring the mountains in and then, see what works, and then maybe bring it into Illustrator and vectorize the mountains, which would be kind of cool actually. Like if I do a search for mountains. And that's a popular one. Let's see.
I also thought we had to have like a person or something like that on there, but it's as long as it's just an image, then it's fine.
Well, I was saying add a call to action, so there should be an additional burst or something. You can be like a little starburst symbol, or maybe just a couple lines of text.
Okay.
I want it to be more than just a header and an image. I want you to add more things to the page.
Okay, got it.
So yeah, I think the concept is great though. So I like the fact that it's minimalistic, and then you're thinking about the relationship between the image and the text. So it looks really good. Anybody else that have anything you have anything you want to share?
I sent something to you, but then I took it out of Discord. So if I have to go to mine, I need to get out of the system. I mean, out of the class and then come back. I don't know if I can do it while I'm.
Oh, okay. Well, Brenda, you want to meet with me tomorrow, right?
Yeah, we'll do it tomorrow then.
Yeah, let's do it tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, anybody else have anything they want to add? I can hear people drag racing down Western right now. Pretty loud.
Yeah,
I don't know if you heard
I
it.
feel that. It's like sometimes it's a quiet neighborhood, but like 20% of the time, some dude likes to rev their motorcycle through like our fucking road. It's just,
Yeah, they do that on Western here. So it's like a
annoying.
drag
They do
strip
that-
now because nobody's on the roads at night.
Why Arcadia of all places, man?
Yeah, Arcadia is big too. I mean, yeah, I can understand that.
Even like around the high school, they like someone's like got their Porsche all gassed up and they just rev through the entire campus, and you can hear it as you're trying to walk home. It's not.
Yeah. I hear it at night here all the time. So is there anything else anybody wants to add or show?
Sorry, would it be able for me to turn the assignment at a later date? I'm a little bit.
Yeah. You don't even
sorry.
have to give me an explanation why.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, sorry about
I'm not
that.
marking anybody down for handing in late assignments.
I'm
So
trying to get them in ASAP. I'm just a little more. I'm way more occupied than I thought I'd be.
yeah, don't worry about it. Everybody's caught off guard by all of this stuff. So,
Yeah.
you know, take your time with the projects. I think
Certainly.
this is it for like typography and InDesign. And I think let's do something a little bit more fun for the next assignment that focuses on like characters. I was thinking in terms of almost doing like a spread in a graphic novel, let's say. Comic book style spread, maybe with some characters you come up with in Illustrator. We can use InDesign for that as well, because I actually do all of my storyboards for my videos. I like to do that in InDesign.
Really?
Yeah. So there's like this one, I'm doing some stuff for USC. Actually, I really like doing it like this. So I'll create a template in InDesign, and then I'll start to combine like animations and drawings in that template, just to get my idea out.
I see a viewport render in there. What software do you use?
Yeah, so that's Blender.
That's
So I got some
Blender?
little Blender in here, and then I have these,
Ooh, nice.
you know,
Nice.
put it on high res. Yeah, so just, you know, I use InDesign for my storyboards.
Once summer hits, I definitely want to take a crack at Octane. Like, I have everything downloaded. I just don't have the time.
Yeah, you should use it. I have it. I'm using it.
Yeah,
I use it for this scene, these conveyor belts. So yeah, Octane's great.
By the way, Joe, I asked you last time about the pixelated one, and you told me to use the high quality thing. It
Yes.
didn't work. It's still pixelated. Maybe I can
If
show
it's not working, then possibly your artwork is low quality, and
That's
there's nothing you can do to fix that.
That's what my daughter told me yesterday. She said maybe you need to use another picture, because not
Yeah.
all of them work.
Yeah, just use another picture. Make sure it's a high enough resolution.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Well, I'm gonna shut it down now if nobody else has any questions.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Sorry, things were kind of messed up in the beginning, you know, but with restarting my computer. But anyways,
No worries,
like I
man.
said,
No worries, man.
Thank you. Yeah, don't worry about late projects. You know, work on stuff, you know, the best way you can. And then if you need to talk to me one-on-one in a Zoom meeting, just let me know, and I'll help you with our, you know, whatever you need help with, I'll help you. And I'm
So we
hoping
have
that,
2 assignments now. We have 2 assignments.
do you have what, Randa?
Two assignments. One the cover, the page, and one the typography.
No, you only have the cover. I'm just showing you different
Yeah, yeah.
tools in InDesign that you may want to use.
I see.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of showing you more aspects of InDesign. I do like it. I like using InDesign, even though I prefer to do animation and
Yeah.
you know, like illustrative type work.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like all those features in InDesign. So
Yeah.
you know, using the eyedropper to capture the style of text and using it on something else and all that stuff. I think there's some great features.
Awesome.
So okay, guys. Well, I'm gonna sign off then, and then let me know if you need help. And then for Tuesday, we'll begin to work on something that's a little bit more fun in terms of characters that we can kind of create, and I'll get more examples of that for you to see. So we'll kind of go back into Illustrator, use a little bit more Illustrator. So all right, well, have a good night,
Thank you.
and I will talk to everybody later.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.